But even God rested on the seventh.
Welcome to amorephillyunion, the podcast where we have dreamed a dream, but now that dream is gone from us. We are your hosts. I'm E.
I'm C.
And I'm Paul.
And I hope that wasn't too much of a downer to start with.
What is that from?
All I could think of is like this whole past weekend. It was like the third Matrix movie where Morpheus. It's the line from Morpheus. I have dreamed a dream, but now that dream is gone from me. Seems appropriate.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, before we jump into all that fun stuff, let's just do a quick bit of housekeeping. Really just a big shout out to everybody for listening this past month. This month has proven to be our biggest month to date by leaps and bounds. We are huge this past week or so in Brazil. So thank you to everybody in Brazil. I don't know what we're doing, but we appreciate it.
Maybe it's the Martinez fans.
You know what? Until I find out otherwise, I'm thinking it's Martinez single-handedly trying to drum up our fan base in Brazil. So
Favorite Leo.
Thank you, Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
Our favorite Leo. So yeah, if you want to jump into these good vibes, we invite you to go check out the Philadelphia Union Foundation at philadelphiaunionfoundation.org. Feel free to throw them a donation or check out all the other great things they have going on over there. Tell them a more Philly Union sent you. All right. Well, this past weekend, decision day, the Union on the edge of a knife, the odds stacked against them. They have to win this game. One of the other two games, Montreal and DC, one of them has to lose. Deck stacked against us. Whatever other cliches work. Yeah, you can probably tell from the intro, things did not go great. So the Union welcomes Cincinnati, our perennial rivals is the right word. It's
Union West, right?
Yeah, they have a good record of raining on our parades. Not that we help that much, but so the Union welcomes Cincinnati, and let's just get right to let's just Tarantino this thing and start at the end. We lost, right? 2-1. And as a result, we are not moving forward into the playoffs. Our season is done. And it's just been a weird day. It was a weird game. I don't know. How do you guys want to start cracking this nut?
Well, the youth kept producing. I mean, Sullivan scored in the second minute.
2 minutes in, yeah.
And, just continue to show shades of what could be, hopefully, in the next couple of years is Sullivan and McGlynn. And I would even say Harry had a good game in this one. I know last week we talked about it, and I was pointing out that, while Harry scored one of the goals, he also gave up 2 goals in that Columbus game. Not necessarily gave up, but he got beat for two goals in that Columbus game. And, that's, like I said at the time, that's bound to happen when you're playing younger players. They're going to have games where mentally they get beat. And the only way for them to become players who don't get beat in those situations is to play in those situations and figure out how not to get beat in them. So hopefully, this was a sign that Harriel's maturing a bit, and it's hard to talk about a game that ended the Union season.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one little bit of solace I took from it, is that Quinn Sullivan continues to play and just have fun out there and good things happen when they do that.
Good things happen in Philadelphia sometimes. Yeah, I mean, I think that is a really good point. And I think it's, I'd like to hear anything optimistic at this point, because it is, my stomach is still a little sick over the whole thing. Although I'm getting used to the discomfort, but Yeah, I don't know. I mean, as Eric alluded to, there were sort of omens. We Paul had the tickets, couldn't go, so we went to the game, and there were just omens left and right that
Yeah.
Like
things
what?
were not going to go well. So like
Ill portends.
it was just a weird day. We were running late, so that's on us. But there was no parking by the time we got there, although that actually resolved itself
Yeah.
to the better because
For the
we
better.
snuck into an even better lot. But so
Yeah, when
that
you
wasn't so much of a thing, but the security was backed up, so it was hard to get in this. It was one of
Yeah.
those death by a thousand cuts kind of things.
Yeah.
We
Hmm.
got in the stadium and he got full body checked by some guy who was not paying attention at all. Like
Yeah.
didn't actually drop him, but pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, you get a
And
little. It was a rattling collision. I mean, it was an
Mhm.
accident. He wasn't looking where he was going. I guess I wasn't looking where I was going. It was just full on like body check. So
Well, then the most horror movie part of it was when we sat down in our seats and we happened to be pretty aligned with the stadium lights. And all of a sudden we realized that there were bugs literally raining down on us.
yeah, it
Oh
was
my
like
God.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like this line of people you could see going, like shaking their hair out and, rubbing things off their shirts and stuff like that. It was the strangest thing because, I mean, the seats we've sat in for 15 seasons
yeah,
now, it's
never
never ever
seen that.
happened. I guess a time of year thing, a weird
Yeah,
meteorological thing. I don't know. But yeah, it was just a rain of bugs for about 5 minutes and
more
then
than that, I
itching
think.
after
Yeah,
that until because you get the ick and then that's it.
yeah,
Mhm.
So it was omens. Yeah, definitely omens.
yeah.
So that wasn't great. And
It's just an off vibe, you know.
yeah. I mean, even honestly, even we were still in the car, sadly, when Quinn scored.
Yeah,
And it didn't make me feel good because scoring early has been downhill pretty much this season for us, generally speaking. Um, so I don't know. Supernatural things aside, though, I don't
but I
know.
mean, I think even too, like blending that into the game, and you can figure out how late we got to this game when we sat down. We were tracking the game in the car, lineup stuff like that. We saw Sullivan score in the second minute, mentionings of the oft quoted scoring too soon
Mm.
concern. But then we sat down and I remember looking on the field and thinking, wait a minute, Gozdog's not out there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we missed that.
We did
So
miss that, yeah.
was that an injury? Is that what it was?
It was an off-ball, non-contact injury.
Mm.
It was 12th minute, 15th minute, something like
15th,
that.
I
It
think,
wasn't
yeah.
wasn't that long into the game.
Mm.
Columbus had a series of attacks, ended up putting the ball out over the end line wide, and suddenly there was a pause in play as the Union's Paul Rushing and another physiotherapist came out on the field to tend to Gazdag, and it was pretty clear he was uncomfortable. There was some pain in his back,
Ooh,
Mm.
and they treated him a bit on the field, then got him off the field, and at that point he had been down too long. So the Union, regardless of whether or not they were making a substitute or trying to put him back on, they had to wait 2 minutes to put a player on, and so they were worked on Gajdag for a little while on the sideline, and his back was just for whatever was going on was just not loosening up, not real, the pressure, the pain wasn't relieving.
Mhm.
And so they ended up having to put Danley Jean-Jacques on and play basically the rest of the game with two defensive midfielders.
Man. Yeah. Once we realized that was yeah, maybe less of an omen, more of a uh-oh, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, he was the
Uh,
team's highest scoring player all season.
oh
And then,
yeah.
here's a
Yeah.
game where we need him and he's not able to play.
yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I'm starting to feel responsible for this. I feel like, you know, we weren't there yet. We weren't on the property, and Sullivan scores in the second minute, and then we show up, and I'm curious how soon after we showed up that Gazdag got hurt by the time we got
Well,
to our
no,
seats.
he was out already.
But I'm just saying, like, we might have been like trying to find a parking space.
Arrived on the property. No,
Yeah,
I think we were still there. We also hit terrible traffic that was nothing. Like there was no accident or anything. It was just, I don't know, Crawley designed a weird highway, I guess, for that one. If you get that reference, boys.
Yeah, definitely send us an email.
Yeah. Y'all don't get it?
Oh no, I know. I thought you were talking
Okay.
to our listeners.
No,
Oh no, I know. I gotcha.
okay. We could have been there. It could have been us. I don't know.
Well, the air continued to leave our sails at the end of the first half, right? Take off and landing time, and Cincinnati gets that equalizing goal.
Time.
What's that, Paul?
In stoppage time.
Yeah, and it was just like the air coming out of the balloon. I mean, because Cincinnati looked dangerous, and the thing is, the result of this game wouldn't have affected their standings. They were whatever, third, fourth place, whatever it is. No matter win or lose, they weren't moving up or down. And I guess, it's a weird, what do you call it, a very poor consolation. But the fact that they came out to play this hard against us when they didn't, the result actually didn't matter. I guess that's a sign of respect. I
think it did affect something about maybe not home field advantage or anything, but there was one of those kinds of things on the line depending on what they did. I don't have the specifics in front of me, nor do I honestly care to look it up. But so there was something in it for them, though, because I was kind of thinking the same thing. I mean, I'm sure nobody wants a game handed to them out of pity. Well, actually, I would have taken that one. But in this regard, but yeah, there was something on the line, but not obviously they were already sure.
So let's talk about that goal, the first goal, the only goal that Cincinnati actually scored.
Yeah.
It was another attack into the Union half, and it was almost like Yakety Sax was playing as they just could not clear this ball.
Yeah.
They had a couple of swings at it, and then Glesnes finally got a piece of it, and one of the Cincinnati players, Kubo, managed to deflect it, and it ended up going out to Yasad, who just kind of strokes it home, puts it far side netting. Blake really didn't have a shot at it. And, like, just if any of those clearance efforts had put it out of play, it would have gone to halftime 1-0. And who knows what would have happened at that point. But 1-1 is far different than 1-0.
Yeah.
And then I had forgotten about it. One of the other podcasts I listened to actually talked about, apparently this was Glesnes' at least his second own goal of the season. He had one in, I want to say it was in not Champions League, maybe Champions League, the CONCACAF Champions League. Yeah, I guess, or Champions Cup or whatever. Apparently he had one of those early in the season for the Union. But I guess it didn't stop him in that game from winning. But yeah, that's just kind of crazy that it happened for Glesnes again. That it's so frustrating. He passes it back to Blake, but he passes it back on frame after Blake had already moved off for the goal. And Blake just could not get back to get the ball, and just watch it just dribble across the line was so frustrating.
It was so weird. I was trying to figure out where more the error rested on. It felt like, I do remember sitting there watching it. The ball's kind of rolling back towards the back of the goal box there, and I knew like Glesnes had it under control. I don't even think there was a Cincinnati attack or forward in the area, but it wasn't a direct threat to getting the ball. And so as Blake was running out, I remember just thinking like, Glesnes has it. And Glesnes passes to where Blake originally was. It was just, I had a hard time believing what I was seeing. And, I was surprised that Blake came out of the net like that first before Blake, Glesnes even passed the ball. It was just weird. Well,
and for me, it was an angle situation too, because when you're in the stadium, of course, you don't get the replays, at least not
Right.
until you get home, right? So it just watching it to me, and actually even you kind of get the replays on the
Yep.
big screen, but
Mhm.
not in the same way. But just watching it, it was it was hard to watch Blake just stand there and watch it go. Now maybe it was
Yeah.
already past him in such a way that he couldn't have done anything. I don't know, but it just
Try something.
it looked
Yeah.
like I saw the season leave his body
Yeah. Yeah.
at that point. Not so much his soul, just the season. Just sort of, I'm done. That's it.
It's like, that's
I know,
it.
so
We're done.
strange. It was just so strange to me. And it was absolute stunned silence, except of course from the two Cincinnati fans sitting
God's
next
sakes.
to me, who I had to. They were polite. They were fine. They did not ask me to move and get out of their way to at the end of the game. They decided it was a better choice to go down a row because they saw I wasn't moving.
Climb some seats.
But I mean, they were fine, but it's just they were just Cincinnati fans, so I wasn't pleased.
The
But
clapping was a little loud and obnoxious.
yeah,
but
I know.
You know what?
But
you're allowed to go to your game or go to a game and cheer for your team. So
they were fine. They were fine. They really were fine.
I just didn't like hearing that.
No, I mean that was the other things. How often do we have opposite side fans and in our area? Anyway, but all that to say, it was just strange.
I just remember when that happened. I don't know if I said this out loud or whatever. I thought I did, but it was just all I could think of is the scene from The Matrix when
you turned to me,
yeah,
and you said,
well, that scene when the was it Cypher, Joey Pants is unplugging everybody from the Matrix, and Cypher in the Matrix just turns to Trinity and just goes, "Not like this." That's all I felt like. It's like
that's what you just turned to me and you just said, "Not like this,
not like this,
not like this,
not like this," because like we needed to win this game, and we were unfortunately level at the half, and then the second half starts, and now we not only go down a goal, it's a goal by our own feet and lack of hands, and it's just like not like this, because then I think it was shortly thereafter we start getting word that DC was now losing. Mm-hmm. So now here's this door that's opening, and we have to score 2 goals in order to get through. Wider. Mm-hmm. And it just felt like, that chasm was starting to open up more and more. And but Christy, I agree. Actually, now that you said that about Blake, just him kind of just doing that whole like stopping and then turning to watch this ball go in. It's like, it was such the un-Blake thing to do. Like, it just, the spirit left him, mm-hmm. the season left him. And it was just kind of like,
I'm not blaming.
No.
Mm-hmm. I'm not. No. It was just, there was just such resignation, whether that's what it really was or not, but that's what it looked like. Yeah.
I mean, we talked about this last week. Like, we're not even playing this game and like we're tired, mm-hmm. These ups and downs, like these just getting over one line to keep going to get over to the next line, or all these little mini steps that we have to get done, and it's just gauntlet. It feels like
and
we got to get this done, else we're out.
Sorry, I mean and then Paul, I know you listened to this too, but they're like running through the season and not making excuses, but there's been just a lot this season when you really think about it. Blake was out for quite a while and more than once, and then we lost Carranza and Martinez midstream, because that makes sense, and Lowe too. I mean, maybe arguably not as big a loss, but I don't know. Depends how you feel about that. But this was, Jim talked about all this in the presser, which I know you listened to as well, or to Paul. But and even Jim mentioned like the potential psychological effect of losing players who are friends, who bring spirit, mm-hmm. the aforementioned heart to the team. I did it this week again.
Drink.
Everyone drinks.
Really?
If you're not already drunk and drowning your sorrows,
or still.
Right. There's a replacements reference for anybody who isn't aware of it.
Yeah, that's your assignment for the off season, guys. Watch the movie if you haven't already. Yeah, so it's just, I mean, plus, I mean, just not playing where they need to play. So and it's not excuses, but there's been a lot more this season than I even remembered fully, to be honest.
Yeah, tough game as a Union fan to see it slip away like that. At the same point, not totally surprising. And we talked about it over the last few weeks that Union had a chance to keep it in their control,
Yeah.
whether or not they were going to
Yeah.
make it.
Mhm.
I can't remember if it was the Free Kick podcast or one of the others, but they pointed out that, hey, let's all remember that the Union were the last team to lose a
Yep.
game at the start of this
Yeah.
season. They went months without losing a game at the start of this season, and
Yeah.
to have it come down to decision day was tough because if they had just won one of the other games, or if they had just tied instead of or won instead of tied, or yeah, it's just not a whole lot there. But I will take some solace in that they are not the LA. I mean, it's not the LA Galaxy LAFC decision day debacle that happened. Now, both of them were playing for first or second place in the West, but I don't know if you
Mhm.
guys saw like
Mm-mm.
just the second half stoppage time that had like three lead changes as to who was going to win the Western Conference. Yeah, apparently, like both, yeah. So Galaxy were up and I think they had like one or two goals lead in the goal differential over LAFC. And then LAFC ends up making up that goal differential and taking the lead in the total points count. And so like LAFC was winning their game, I think Galaxy were losing theirs. In second half stoppage time, the Galaxy gets the lead of their game, which puts them now ahead in total points. And then the what was it? How did they give up a goal at the end? They gave up something at the end and ended up losing. The Galaxy ended up losing their game. Like there's a whole you have to go, it's like minute by minute through second half
Mm.
stoppage time in the two games, and you see like LAFC's like or LA Galaxy's got it locked up, and then suddenly LAFC comes back and takes the lead in the West, and then LA Galaxy takes it back, and then LAFC takes it back, and that's how it ends.
Wow.
Galaxy lost out and took second place in the West in second half stoppage of decision day. That's pretty crazy. But at least
Yeah.
they both made it in.
Yeah. They're
Yeah,
first and
right.
second. First and second.
Bit of a Hobson's choice as to who to
Yeah.
root for in that
Yeah.
matchup, but
Well, we're always
although,
going to root against LAFC,
well,
but
100%.
Exactly.
but yeah, it's a tough game. I know we're going to have plenty of episodes in the off season to talk about what's going to happen next. And right now, this is just kind of a lancing of the boil that is this season, and just hope to kind of put it behind us and move forward. And um, I did have to ask, how long did you guys stick around after the game?
Oh, good question. We
Quite a
stuck
while.
around till the bare end. We
Yeah.
because that was the other weird thing about this. It like in some respect, this game felt like a game of no consequence because after it was all over, the air was already coming out of the balloon. Like people were definitely starting to leave en masse
Oh,
by
they
the
left at
80th
the
minute.
80th minute. Yeah.
And yeah, it was just this nothing really happened. Like there were players on the field. A lot of people were going over giving Bedoya love, which is I think one thing we got to talk about here because this arguably was his last game. Probably his last game. And there was definitely a camera following Ali around on the field, like a
Right.
video steady cam thing. And he looked a little, I don't want to say emotional, but he looked, there was definitely emotion or there was a seriousness about this whole thing. And that was it. I mean, Curtin didn't make a lap. One or two players, I think Sullivan walked past,
Sullivan did.
McGlynn did.
Yeah.
And then that was it. There
The
was,
kids did for the most
yeah.
part. Maybe
And
Elliot. I'm not
yeah.
sure.
It's just kind of like the game just slowly evaporated back into the into the hallway, and that was it. The players just made their way kind of out. No,
Well,
like,
it's tough to stay after something like that. Although I know it's the last game of the season. But
yeah, and I don't know what you would do. Like, hey, everybody, yeah, we lost. We're not in the playoffs. Woo. Yeah, I was like, you
well,
can't,
that's it.
like, what are you gonna do otherwise? It just
I
felt
mean, walk around and clap for the
anticlimactic.
fans but there weren't
Yeah,
even that many fans left. So
yeah,
in a
Yeah,
way,
it
I
seemed
don't.
like
In
it
some
emptied
ways,
pretty quick.
it did empty
yeah,
quick.
they started leaving fully 10 minutes before the end of
Yeah,
the second half. Like that's not even counting stoppage. So
yeah,
which I thought was kind of crappy, to be totally
yeah,
honest. I mean, but that aside, Bedoya stayed out probably the longest, except for well, so we kind of stood there and were just watching him creepily, I guess. But even Pat Noonan
oh yeah,
came over and was talking to him for quite a while. I think I
yeah.
recorded much of their conversation, or at least, from afar. Who knows what they were actually saying? But there was a lot of love and hugs, and Allie was very clearly disappointed
Yeah.
and
Maybe
upset.
Noonan was giving him a job offer.
Oh, who
God,
knows?
I hope not. That'd break my heart.
Actually, right before Noonan was talking with Ali, I saw Paul Rushing was talking to him, and I gave him a
Mhm.
hug. And I'm thinking, like, I like to think they were not congratulating, yeah, but congratulating each other for Paul was congratulating Ali for making it through to the next round of Union Dome past him. But
Oh, we do have to talk about that.
yeah, we can talk
It's
about Union Dome.
wait till we get through this mess.
Yeah,
So yeah, so he definitely stayed out the longest. He did walk around and clap a bit. He kind of did. He went, instead of going around the full stadium, he went around the center circle and just looked,
Yeah.
at everybody. And he did leave, but
Was he signing things for like
No.
fans in the stands?
No. There's that back corner there, like the Sons of Ben section on the right side. Like if you're in the middle of the field staring at Sons of Ben's in that back right corner. So there were a bunch of people there to get things signed and stuff like that. I couldn't see if Ali went over there. We went over there a little bit later. Jack Elliott was there. Solon was there. Remember, he was signing his shoes and giving to some kid in the Sons of Ben section, which is a pretty cool move. I don't even know if Ali was over there.
He wasn't.
He just
He had
kind of
gone.
he just faded into the west,
Yeah. I
So,
think I did see something after the game about him saying he was quite emotional, so I
yeah.
could see that maybe he couldn't handle it. Just watching Jack Elliott sign things, and then people ask for pictures with their themselves or with their kids or whatever. The smile on his face was
Very
probably the
fixed.
most forced smile I have ever
I'm
seen.
having a great time.
I mean, it was almost like
Yeah.
Brazil, that movie where they
Oh
glued,
God.
it was just this jack-o'-lantern of a smile,
Yikes.
no pun
Yeah.
intended. So yeah, the poor thing. I was like, oh, please don't make him take a picture. I don't
Yeah,
think
right.
you
Yeah,
want
let
that
him
picture.
sign something for you, but now's
Yeah.
not a good time for a
It's
picture.
not a great time.
There should have been somebody with like just, a fan off the sideline with a bottle of something and shot glasses just to give, some whiskey
Yeah, he
or
just
something.
stood hugging his wife for the
Yeah.
longest time before he even went over and
Yeah.
did that. I noticed. So anyway, but that's all very dark and down, I guess. But yeah, so I think we stayed. It was probably almost an hour till we got out, got in the car, and got going.
Which was probably good for the traffic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it actually
There
was.
was almost no traffic by the time we
Wasn't
left.
great for the dining options, but
And that was the other thing. We stopped off at this Cracker Barrel just like a couple miles north of the stadium. And we walk in there and you can see there were plenty of open tables. We saw two people outside sitting on the rocking chairs talking to some other people walking in. I heard something about maybe a wait or something like that. I'm like, well, it can't be that bad. We get in there and basically the hostess is telling the people in front of us, oh, the wait is about 15 minutes to get seated, but then it's about an hour to get food. I was like, what is going on with this day?
it was death by a thousand cuts. It really was.
Yeah. So
Guess they must
we
be
left.
short on staff.
sure.
I guess,
Yeah.
but it just made no sense, and we were tired, and yeah, so
They're like, screw it, go to Wawa.
Yeah.
I think we
We
one
were
of
this
us said
close.
something like that. We can always go to Wawa, but at the same time, I would not want to put Wawa and whatever crosshairs were on that day.
Yeah,
You
really.
know,
So we went to another Cracker Barrel.
we went to another Cracker Barrel.
Thank God Cracker Barrel still stays open late.
Yeah,
Anyway.
seriously.
So with this game being over, just kind of look at the standings. DC didn't make it. Us, obviously, we didn't. Atlanta leapfrogs over us, Toronto, DC, and everybody to get into ninth place.
Yep.
We finished 12th overall, still behind Toronto.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and then tonight I think was the wild card game between Atlanta and Montreal. That ended 2-2 in regular time and went to PKs. It was in Montreal, and of course Atlanta won on PKs. So Atlanta is through. They started behind us going into decision day, and they are now officially 8th place going into the playoffs.
Miami.
They're going to face Miami.
So it's Tata Martino and Messi versus Tata Martino's previous team in Atlanta.
Yeah. One other thing I will point out, I don't know if this is, and I literally have a shirt that says Missouri loves company. The Union finished in 12th place, and so did St. Louis. St. Louis City FC finished in 12th place.
Hey,
there we go.
Fried ravioli for
There
everyone.
we go. That sounds
good.
The perfect bomb for all this.
Nothing like carb stuffed carbs.
Yeah.
Look, I'm Polish and German. That's what we're built on.
I don't really have anything else to say about this. We'll do a dive on the season, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about players coming up. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to be sad for what could have been. But at the same point, even if the Union had made it in, I don't think they would have gotten past Miami, even if they had gotten past the wild card game.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the things we talked about, earlier in the season was, especially when the Union was really starting to struggle and we were dropping in the standings, was what constitutes a successful season, and it was you got to get into the playoffs. And I don't want to say this was an unsuccessful season. It's just a disappointing end to the season. And another thing I'm trying to think of is, when was the last time the Union were not in the playoffs?
So they've made it to the playoffs the last 6 years in a row.
Yeah.
But even God rested on the 7th.
Well, that does put a perspective on things.
Pepper.
It does put it in perspective. Yeah.
Done.
Well said, sir.
Yeah, so they made it 6 straight years. They're out this year. In fact, they were saying in the past that of the players on the team, only Blake, Bedoya, Blesness, and Elliott were around from that team that was the last team that didn't make it.
Wow.
Everybody else is newer to the team.
And all they know are playoffs.
Remarkable.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, my favorite quote from the Jim Curtin post-game press conference was, "You get what you deserve in this game, and it tells the truth."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
there is an objective reality to the final results here. So
it's like, once again, to quote the Replacements, what separates the winners from the losers? The score.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I fully expect Curtin to not mince words, not pull punches. I don't know. It's going to be weird. I know we'll talk about this in the coming, the now, I guess, official off season, but I mean, when does the season start next? What 3-4 months from now? What this team is going to look like in 4 months, or
it could be radically different.
It could be radically different. Yeah.
Well, before we totally wrap up this season, I don't even know we'll be talking more about it, but
we still have more to flog.
Yeah.
Do you want to know if you were right about Union Dome?
Yeah, that was one of my notes. Did we pick the correct result for the Union Dome
for the final?
Yeah, the final between.
Yeah, just to refresh anybody who didn't listen to last episode, we had kind of this bracketeering style game that E and I played, and the final was Ali Bedoya versus Jose Martinez, and the random competition between the two of them was which would C most like to have dinner with? And E and I both agreed that it would be Ali Bedoya.
Yeah.
But we're gonna find the truth out here tonight. So who was it, C?
It was Ali Bedoya.
Yeah.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
was Ali Bedoya. 100%. Now, if it had been dancing, Martinez. I wouldn't have been able to keep up. He would had
Yeah.
a lot of teaching to do. But yes, you were 100% correct. I was wondering, we were listening to it in the car on the way down. I didn't get a chance to listen to it on the way back from my work trip.
Yeah.
And listening to it in the car, and I couldn't understand why Eric very obviously wanted me to listen to it. I mean, like, other than this, it's our pod, but like, yeah, I get it, but there was more to it. And then he was, vibrating. Like, yeah, you got it right.
Yeah, because when I was putting together that game, I was thinking about these little challenges as players face off against each other. That was one of the first things that popped in my head. Like, oh, which one would Christy rather go to dinner with?
If you had ended up with, I mean, it was like the perfect pairing, really,
Like,
for that.
Paul Rushing versus Quinn Sullivan. I was like, I'm not sure. Probably Paul Rushing.
Oh, Paul Rushing. Yeah. Yeah.
Fang versus Fang and Quinn Sullivan making it that far would have been like, I'll go with Quinn.
Yeah. I think I told the
to...
story about my coworker in Texas who I randomly got tickets to an Austin game, not knowing anything about this, and they happened to be playing the Union. That started telling her who to look for, and she was crushing on Quinn Sullivan until I told her that at the time he was 19, and she's not that much older, but she felt it was out of bounds, so she declared herself a creeper. So when he turned 20, I said, he's at least 20 now. She's like, nope, still too young. So that's another reason.
All right, so we're gonna have a lot of stuff to talk about in the coming weeks. What's going to happen during the off season, what might happen during the off season. A lot of things to talk about. I guess in the meantime, it's just going to be more, grief shared is grief divided.
That's right.
So hopefully, we'll tune in some other Union podcasts. Hopefully, our podcast is helping you with all this. And like the perennial quote, right? There's always next year. So we'll see what happens in a few months from now. So if you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on our website, amorephillyunion.com. Drop us an email, share your thoughts about the end of the season. Did you have bugs raining on you during this game? You can send us an email at pod@amorephillyunion.com. On Twitter, we are amorephillyu. Instagram, YouTube threads, we are amorephillyunion. We're always adding to our Spotify playlists, which you can find as a More Philly Union. I'm not sure how happy this week's song is going to be. Well, we'll see. And keep downloading our podcast wherever you get yours. Thanks again for tuning into another episode of A More Philly Union. We are your hosts. I'm E.
I'm C.
And I'm Paul. Go Union!
Next year.
And keep downloading our podcast wherever you get yours. We appreciate all the support. Look forward to I'm gonna do this again because I don't know what I'm talking about.